Strap into your chair. I normally cover these 10 tricks or tips or techniques in a 2-day workshop. We are going to blast through them in 30 minutes or less. So let's dive in. We talked about the creative imagination in a previous episode. What I want to do in this episode is cover 10 ways, 10 tricks or tips for stimulating your creative imagination. So let's dive right in. The first one is varied input. Getting ideas from lots of different places. And we all know right off the top the value of a mastermind. You get multiple perspectives on different solutions. You also get multiple voices giving you ideas for new things you can do. We also know that coaches and mentors, they help us spot areas where we can improve, and they give us advice about how to do that. But I have a question. Do you recognize the phrase, the odd man principle? We use it all the time, but we generally tend to miss how we can use it for ourselves. And I'm sure you've heard of getting, fresh eyes in a situation where you take a break, you walk away, go do something else, and then come back, and you feel fresh to tackle whatever the situation is that you were working on. Of course, there's also fresh eyes in terms of asking someone else. For example, in a mastermind. Or you reach out to your coach or your mentor and you say, what do you think about whatever it is? The concept of the odd man principle is that you get someone who is knowledgeable, but they are knowledgeable in a different area. You are after a fresh perspective. And, as valuable as masterminds and coaches and mentors can be, we all start out alone. It takes time to build up a revenue stream so that you can afford to hire a coach. It takes time to reach out and make a connection with someone who can become a mentor. And masterminds, it takes time just to assemble one. When we're starting out alone, the more that we can vary the input we receive, the more likely we are to be able to come up with solutions on our own. And learning how to vary the input is a skill just as much as typing or speaking clearly or swinging a hammer. It's a skill. It can be learned. And I'll tell you, you do yourself a huge favor, assuming that you can speak clearly. I seem to remember mentioning that recently. You do yourself a huge favor by learning this skill early and using it throughout your life. Aside from business or any kind of personal development, varying the input is one tool you can use for staving off things like Alzheimer's and dementia, because you keep your brain functioning, you keep it learning and developing new connections, new ways of thinking. So what does all this mean? Vary the input, vary the input. What do you mean, vary the input? Turn up the volume? Turn down the volume? Well, let's say you like country music. Great. Or you like rock music. Also great. Make a point of listening to other kinds of music. Jazz, classical, gospel, every other musical style. Now, if there's one that you particularly dislike, obviously you can leave that out. The idea is simply to give yourself a variety of input. And the same applies when you are reading. If you like mystery novels, but that's all you ever read, you are unnecessarily limiting yourself. Now, read all the mystery novels you want, but be sure to add in science fiction, fantasy, biographies, history books, chemistry textbooks, biology textbooks. Add in other kinds of reading. And other kinds of reading that go beyond whatever it is that you do for work. So Let's say you are a chemistry teacher. Obviously, you would read 1, 2, or 3 chemistry textbooks. You would also have exposure to physics and mathematics and, generally other school textbooks. Well, it might be a good idea for you to invest some time reading some fiction books, just so that you are varying the input. Dan Kennedy used to make a point of explaining he reads magazines all the time, but he tends to read the same magazines, the same newspapers on a daily basis. One of the ways that he varied his input is that whenever he was traveling somewhere, and he used to travel frequently, so he is about to get on an airplane, he's going to have 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe more, of unoccupied time on the airplane. He would make a point of stopping at a store in the airport and very deliberately pick up 6, 7, 12 magazines that he, under other circumstances, would never read. And in the process of flying from point A to point B, he would flip through those magazines. He would read some articles. Because he's very much into marketing, he would absolutely read the ads. And anything that caught his attention, he would tear that page out. Or if it was 2 or 3 pages, he would tear those pages out. Something else to be aware of is we all experience a thing called confirmation bias. And one of the ways that we experience it is we only listen to news from people who think the same way we do. We only read magazines that tend to reinforce what it is we already think. And most especially today, websites, all websites, are designed to show you what you like. And let me amend that slightly. All good websites are designed to show you more of what you want to see. This is the whole concept between search engine optimization. If you go searching for pork chops and my website only shows you roast beef, clearly there's a disconnect. When you go on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, these sites use algorithms very specifically designed to show you more of the things in which you are demonstrating an interest. This is why social media of all brands is referred to as being an echo chamber. It just feeds you more of what you want to hear. Well, when you deliberately vary your input, you expose yourself to new ways of looking at things. And that is what you want. To really stimulate your creative imagination, you want to read things, you want to listen to things, you want to watch things that present you with perspectives, opinions, information with which you either disagree or with which you have had no relationship before. So if you read, let's say you are a computer programmer and a gamer. So you are always on a computer, you're always in front of a screen. Well, it might be very useful for you to read Popular Mechanics or Field and Stream, Nature Magazine, National Geographic, things that you never see. It would also be very useful for you to join something like the Bruce Trail Conservancy and go hiking on the Bruce Trail on a regular basis. To get a bicycle and deliberately go out every day for half an hour and just ride around on your bicycle to see what you see. This is varied input. It's doing something that you normally or ordinarily would be disinclined to do. That's the first one. Mental exercise. That's the next one. Mental exercise. And to be clear, everything in this list, all 10 of these things, are mental exercises. Varied input is exercising your brain with things that you normally would never see. But I am singling it out because there are specific things you can do to exercise your mind, just in the same way that there are specific things to do when you go in the gym. So when I go in the gym, I have a set of exercises I use to work my back and my biceps, a different set of exercises for my chest, different exercises for my triceps, different for my legs, different for my shoulders. Well, there are different things you can do with your brain, different mental exercises. You might right away think of crossword puzzles or word searches. Okay, that is absolutely one kind of mental exercise. Another could be very deliberately going out to play euchre with some people, because it's something different. You could play with your children and do the I Spy kind of games. Play hide and seek. You can deliberately do brain teasers. You could deliberately do math homework. So if your job is marketing of some kind, or coaching, or whatever, being a carpenter or a plumber, you can change up your pace, vary your input, by doing homework with your kids, helping them do their English homework, their math homework, their geography homework. These are all kinds of things that you can do, and these are all mental exercises. The point of singling it out is to draw your attention to the idea that you want to do these things on a fairly regular basis. Does it have to be every day? No. Just the same as there's no requirement that you go to the gym every day. But, basic medical advice is that you should work out, 3 times a week for 20 minutes, half an hour. Okay. Well then, give yourself some mental exercise, at least 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And it's whatever you want to do. It could be doing a jigsaw puzzle, it could be doing a crossword. It could be having a conversation with your children or your spouse, or going out to a museum. Okay? It's just deliberately exercising your brain in a way that it normally never experiences. Next one, 3. Block out distractions. Now, I'm unsure how the microphone is picking up what's going on, but in the background, I can hear a siren, I can hear a helicopter, and I can hear the announcer at Varsity Stadium. These are all distractions, but I'm doing a video, and so I stay focused on the video. I have been in the military, I've mentioned that, and I have lived in different places. I remember one time I lived directly above a bar. Now, if you want to talk distraction, try going to sleep at 10 o'clock in the evening when the bar is playing music loudly enough that it actually vibrates your bed. That's a pretty big distraction. So learning to block out distractions, and it is a learning process. There are some people who come by it naturally, absolutely. But, for example, if you have kids in the house, one of the distractions, well, several distractions that you'll want to block out are when you hear your kids fighting, let your husband or wife take care of it. You stay focused on what you're doing. You hear your kids out in the yard playing and having fun and laughing. You need to block that out and stay focused on what it is you're doing. You hear the kids watching a movie. So whatever it is that they're doing, you are going to have a natural desire to say, oh, I want to go join my kids. I want to go have fun with my kids. Well, you need to block out that distraction. It is an exercise just the same as cardio exercise, just the same as weightlifting, learning to focus. And weightlifting, to me, is kind of a good example. When I'm in the gym, it really makes no difference to me what is going on. I focus on the weight that I'm moving and how I am moving it. If someone wants my attention, they are going to have to come and physically touch me to get my attention. I block out everything else that's going on in the gym. It takes practice. You'll get better at it as you try it, as you practice it. But learning to block out distractions. Even one that I work at constantly is the rabbit hole of the internet. You do a Google search for something, and it gives you millions upon millions of results. Well, I will look through the first 20 or 30 results, and I will open those results in other tabs in the browser. And then I'm reading through the results. Now, one distraction that I need to work at blocking out, making sure, no, just do this, is boredom. Research can be boring. You're reading the 10th article that is expressing the same kind of information. That can get boring, and that's a distraction to be blocked out. You are also reading through a web page, and there are other things there. Oh, here are other articles you could read. Here are ads you could click on. There are things on the page that are extraneous to the research that I'm doing. I used to click on things and go, well, this is a related article. It might have something. And then I learned, no. Just stick with the first 10 or 20 that, okay, this looks like it's relevant. Find what I can find in those articles. And then these others absolutely could be relevant. They could be useful. They could have additional useful information. But if I have no requirement for that information, then I don't go look at it. And one of the things I do to sort of keep the door open to be able to continue doing research is when I go visit a web page, I make sure that I bookmark that web page. And of course, my bookmarks are very well organized. Even that took a while to learn. But my bookmarks are very well organized so that, for example, this video channel, every episode is numbered. That's why every episode has a number. And then what the episode is about is there. And then the bookmarks are organized underneath it. Now, sometimes there's no need for an extra folder. Sometimes there is a need for an extra folder. Maybe an extra 2 or 3 folders. And all of that is sorted out, which also helps me to block out the distraction of the additional links. Because I know this page is bookmarked. If I need to do more research, I can come back to this page and click on those related articles. I can always come back and do that. That is something that helps me a lot to block out that particular distraction. I don't have to follow this link. I can come back to it later if needed. So, block out distractions. Right with it, relax. Learn how to chill out. Find what works for you to relax. Maybe relaxing includes watching television. Maybe it means reading a book. Maybe relaxing means going for a walk. That's a big one for me. I like to get out and go for a walk because I work at home. And so I make a point of getting out every day and going for walks. And I have used Google Maps. I've mapped out routes, so I know the distances, the approximate distances that I'm going to be walking. And so I have different routes to follow. So even there, as much as I can, I'm varying the input. And this is something that relaxes me. So find what works for you when it comes to relaxation. It might be meditation, deep breathing. It can be very, very simple. Going outside and sitting in the grass, playing with your dog, okay? Here's one that's going to require some explanation. Ask for vivid detail. Everything you vividly and repeatedly imagine is accepted as true by your self-image. So what does it mean to ask for vivid detail? I'm the one that's imagining it. Don't I just automatically come up with vivid detail? Maybe. You might. Most people, on the other hand, they don't start out with vivid detail. They start out with an idea, and so you need to, literally, have a conversation with yourself where you're saying, I would like more detail. Well, what do I want more detail about? If I'm imagining my future, and I'm thinking about the house, okay, well, I'll start out with, what rooms do I want in the house? A living room, a dining room, a kitchen. Okay, let's get more detail. Where is the kitchen? My personal preference is that the kitchen is on the north side of the house, so it's getting the least amount of sunshine. Why? Because the kitchen tends to be the hottest room in the house. It's where the oven is. It's where all the cooking gets done. You also need to stop and consider that when you are cooking, having stuff exposed to the heat from sunlight can be a bad thing. If you're making a tomato sauce, no big deal. If you're cooking a roast beef, no big deal. But if you are baking and making pastry, very big deal. The last thing you want is sun shining in on the table where you are making pastry. When I say ask for vivid detail, I mean things all the way down to, what do I want the kitchen cupboards to look like? How tall do I want the kitchen cupboards? I'm a little taller than average. So the standard 30-inch height for a table is a little bit low for me. The standard height of 32 inches for a countertop is a little bit low for me. So my vivid detail includes, I want my countertop to be at least 36 inches high. I want my tables to be 36 inches high. Now, part of that is because some of what I want to do is that when I'm working at the table, if I need to move things directly to a counter for some reason, or the other direction, I want to come from the counter to the table, I want them the same height. I know this. This is something I want. Something else is, okay, you are in the kitchen. Do you want ceiling fans in the kitchen? For the exhaust vent over the stove, do you want just an exhaust vent? Do you want a range hood that comes out? Do you want a restaurant type range hood? How big a stove do you want? Do you want 2 ovens, 1 oven? Do you want 4 elements on top of the oven? Do you want a great big stovetop that has 8 elements? You want to, whatever it is that you are imagining, you want to get as vivid as possible about the detail. When you clean your stove, what does it smell like when you clean your stove? Okay, what does the cleaner smell like? What does the stove smell like once it's clean? What do the burners look like? Everything that you can imagine, and this is detail that you add in as you go. And on a daily basis, when you think about, this is the house I want, this is the job I want, this is, the family that I want, you might, no, you will, imagine it in general terms on a daily basis. But in the back of your mind, because you have made the effort to ask for vivid detail, and you are thinking about the house, you will think about, that library, and here's what's in the library. The basement, and here's how the basement has been finished, and here are all the things in the basement. The bedrooms, there are 7 bedrooms. And you'll also have in your mind, here's what bedroom for our first child looks like. Here's bedroom for our second child. Here's the sewing room. Here's all the various rooms and what it is that's in them. Here's the master bedroom. And is there a bathroom with the master bedroom? Is there a seating area with the master bedroom? All of these things you put together over time. You add in all that detail so that when you are thinking about the house, that detail automatically comes to mind. No need to focus on it, but it's there and it comes to mind. And that strengthens your creative imagination. And you can see how progressively asking for more and more vivid detail is in itself a mental exercise. You are strengthening your imagination. Good thing. Here's an important one. When you are doing this visualization and you are thinking about, I'm going to give a speech, or I'm going to do a series of interviews with people because I'm hiring someone, or here's the house that I want. You want to keep all of it in the present tense. Visualize your peak performance in the present tense. You are doing it right now, and you are doing it perfectly. So when you envision the house, or the job, or whatever it is that you are visualizing, you want to visualize it in the present tense. And exponentially more important, when you are visualizing yourself doing a thing, you want to visualize yourself doing it now. You know that, okay, I am going to meet Dan Kennedy 3 weeks from now. All right, great. I'm going to meet Dan Kennedy 3 weeks from now. But when I think about talking to Dan and interacting with him, I think about that in the present tense. Here's how it goes. Rather than, here's how it is going to go. No. Here's how it goes. Here is how it happens. And before you experience it, just so you know, this is the kind of thing that induces deja vu. And I have experienced this, because I used to think, okay, I have this meeting coming, this is what I'm going to do, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. And I would think about it based on the calendar. Here's this meeting in October. And I would think about it being in October. Never really got deja vu. When I started focusing and imagining things in the present tense, and I could see myself giving the presentation, I could see myself doing the interview, I could see myself having the conversation with someone, and then I would go do that, you see, that's when you get deja vu. Because when you vividly, repeatedly imagine something, your self-image takes it as being true. So then when it actually happens, you have already imagined it having happened. And then you experience it, that's where you get deja vu. And I say this because it's going to happen, and I want you to be prepared. So that when it does happen, because it can be kind of freaky. Yeah, it can be kind of, whoa, didn't I do this before? So that when it does happen, you know, take it as confirmation that things are going exactly the way you want them to go. Deja vu is a good thing. You want to experience it. This leads into, I think it leads into, resisting interference from your left brain. And I'm sure you've heard this, where the left brain is the logical, left logic. The right brain is the recreational. It's the imaginative side. Okay. When you are visualizing, when you are imagining, you want to basically tell the logical side of yourself, verfig off. Go away. Yes, I know that this is happening in 3 weeks or 6 months or whatever. I know that I don't really control what's going to happen. I also don't care. I am going to imagine meeting with Dan. I'm going to imagine meeting with Carrie. I'm going to imagine meeting with Stephanie. And I am going to imagine how it's going to go. Because I have a goal to achieve. And I know, and I do know, from direct experience, that when I imagine a thing happening, that's the thing that tends to happen. I also know that when I imagine a conversation, whether it's an interview, a media interview, or I'm interviewing somebody for a position, or I'm meeting with somebody to have a conversation about business on something, how I imagine it going is how it tends to go. Also, when I am having that conversation, whatever it is, if it starts to go in another direction, I recognize that right away. Nah, this is going somewhere I don't want it to go. And I pull it back. You see how advantageous that is? Because I know how I want this conversation to go. If it starts going off on a different track, I recognize that and I pull it back so that it stays on the track I want to follow. So, resist the interference from your left brain that says, this doesn't make sense, this isn't logical. Okay, that's absolutely true. It also makes no difference whatsoever. Again, and you'll hear me say this repeatedly, not just in this video, but forever. Your brain, your self-image, has no clock attached to it. Now, we have an internal clock and all that. Yeah, I get that. What I mean is, again, when you vividly and repeatedly imagine something, your self-image just accepts it as true. If you vividly, repeatedly imagine cutting a tomato, then the next time you are in the kitchen and you start cutting a tomato, you're going to have a deja vu moment and go, didn't I do this already? Whatever it is that you vividly, repeatedly imagine, your self-image takes it as this is true and this has happened. So that later, when it does happen, that's where the deja vu comes from. And your left brain has this inclination to say, well, this isn't really happening. Yeah, farfignugan off. I know it isn't really happening. I'm getting ready for when it does really happen. So push aside the left-leaning, logical stuff and just let yourself repeatedly, vividly imagine things. Here's a big one. This is huge, and this probably represents a change for a lot of folks that are watching. Replay past successes. We all have had experiences, or we do rehearse negative things. Times that we failed, times that we got things wrong. Okay. There is a use for that, because you absolutely, if something goes wrong, you want to look at it. How did it go wrong? How can I fix it? How can I keep it from happening again? Absolutely. But on a general daily basis, you want to capture your thoughts and make sure that you are thinking the way you want to think. So if your goal is to build success, then you absolutely want to replay past successes. Now, there's a whole lot more I can cover on this. It's just the general idea is, if you find yourself thinking about something that went wrong at any point in history, in your past, just stop and use those stimuli. Clap your hands together. Say stop out loud. I do. I try to do it when I'm alone, so that otherwise people look at you silly. However, I can be on a subway train and just do this, and people will look at me, but that's all. They're just, oh, he clapped his hands. I give myself a stimulus to break the chain of thought and recognize, okay, this is thinking for which I have zero desire. And then I start deliberately thinking about things that I do desire, the successes that I have had. And if it's something bad that happened in your past, and you are thinking about that, and right away, you have no immediate thoughts about where is a success in that event, then here's the success on which you need to focus. You just broke that thought pattern. You just stopped yourself, and you are now telling yourself to think about positive things. There's your success. Use that. And the next time that you start going down negative lines of thinking, a success that you can replay is, hey, last week I stopped myself. I can stop myself again. And eventually it will be, hey, I have learned how to stop myself. So you no longer need to clap. You no longer need to say something out loud. And you have a series of successes that you can replay around that very topic of learning to stop yourself, take your focus off negative things, and put your focus on the positive things. Okay, so replay relevant past successes. Okay, 2 more. Number 9. This is kind of cheating. It's combining 2 things. And yes, I have a script. That's why I'm looking down. Use mental movies and mental rehearsal. And let me interject here. I have for a while been thinking, I'd like something other than mental movies and mental rehearsal. Mostly because the word mental today has negative connotations to it. You know, people, oh, well, you're mental. Okay. So I would like your input on what about using imagination movies and imagined rehearsal? Because that's really what you're doing. You are making up a movie of you doing the thing, just like I said before, always do peak performance in the present tense. Well, you're making up a movie so that you can watch yourself give the speech. You can watch yourself throw the football. Whatever it is that you're going to do, you make a movie so that you can watch yourself do it. So it's all imagination. So I kind of like imagination movie, imagination rehearsal. But I'm asking, do you agree? Do you have other ideas? If you could let me know in the comments, that would be great. And then imagining your rehearsal is actually doing the thing. So an imagined movie is watching yourself throw the football. Watching yourself, put yourself in the audience and watch yourself do your speech or your comedy routine or your singing, whatever it is. When you do the rehearsal, that's in the first person perspective. You want to feel your hand gripping the ball. You want to feel your body moving as you throw the ball. You want to feel the spotlight on you while you are speaking. You want to hear the audience laughing, crying, whatever the response is that you want from them. You want to do it in first person. So when you are rehearsing, that's first person perspective. When you're watching the movie, that's third person. You watch yourself do it. Okay? Again, I could talk about this for hours, just that one idea. Last one. Capture your ideas. All of your ideas. Remember I said before, resist left brain interference? This is a place where you resist left brain interference. You come up with an idea and your brain goes, that's just crazy. Write it down anyway. I have an idea book that is a full-size workbook. Okay, it's 8.5 by 11 basically. Spiral bound. And so I have it organized a little bit where I try to keep similar ideas together. And the point of that idea book is I write down everything. Even if while I am writing it down I think this is a really stupid idea, I write it down anyway. Because just like varying the input and reading magazines or newspapers or watching movies you'd never watch or listening to music you'd never listen to, going to comedy clubs that you have never gone to before, whatever it is, however it is that you vary your input, when you capture your ideas, 3 months from now, a year from now, this is an opportunity for you to vary input by flipping back through your idea book. Very often I hear people talk about the idea book that, when you're looking for something, that's when you leaf back through your idea book. No. That is actually a very bad approach. You should look back through your idea book on a regular basis. I would say at a minimum twice a year. At a minimum. And there are a couple of reasons for it. One is, as you're reading through your idea book, that act can stimulate more ideas. Write them down. The other thing is, there will be ideas in there that you have long forgotten about. 5 years from now, when your idea book is getting kind of ragged and it's almost full, you're leafing through it, there will be ideas in there that you forgot about, that you see, and then you realize, this fits in with the project I'm doing. Here is a bonus that I could give away. Here's additional material that I could use. Here's another way of presenting it. And again, I suggest that you at least twice a year flip through your idea book just to read it, just to vary the input that you're getting. I do it more frequently than that. And I'm also a little bit irregular about it. So rather than saying, I do it, every 2 months or every 3 months, I do it every 2 or 3 months, but I never put it in my calendar to do it. So when I am working on goal setting, and so it might be a Friday that I'm doing goal setting, and I will just, I'll pick up the idea book and I'll flip through. Because I'll be reading something in my goal sheets and I'll think, I wonder if I ever, and then I'll flip through the idea book. There are other times when it's just a Sunday afternoon, or I want to play hooky, but I don't really want to go anywhere. I don't really want to do anything. And I know, because I've built the habit, that's a time to pull out the idea book and just kind of look at things. Maybe it stimulates something. Maybe it, encouraged me to pull up my goal achievement binder and make some notes, on a particular goal that I'm working toward. Whatever it is, I just read through the idea book. And sometimes it's just an exercise in creativity. That's all. Okay, so that's it. That's the 10. I'm not even going to review them. Okay? There is a table of contents in the description below, which will list all 10. So if you want to review them, down there, go take a look. Also, while you're down there, give me a comment. Are there other things you use to stimulate your creative imagination? Do you have questions about any of these? Happy to answer your questions. And if that came through on the microphone, I'm actually watching a friend's dog and he's over there snoring. I'll bet that's coming through on the microphone. Anyway, any questions you have, by all means, feel free to put them below. Any suggestions or thoughts, happy to read them. Looking forward to it, and I look forward to seeing you, sort of interacting with you in the next video.